I'm Abby Kuhathasan. Welcome to the program. U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un have emerged from their working lunch, and the U.S. president says they will sign an agreement, though we don't have the details yet on what might be in that agreement. This was the scene just a few minutes ago as the two leaders came out of the lunchtime break and walked along the path outside the Capella Hotel. They spoke briefly and addressed reporters. Here's what Donald Trump had to say.
Doing great. We had a really fantastic meeting. A lot of progress, really very positive. I think better than anybody could have expected. Top of the line, really good. We're going right now for a signing.
And even as we wait to hear exactly what the two leaders are signing behind closed doors, this has already been a day for the history books, a day that some have had some remarkable scenes, such as this moment when the two men emerged in front of a row of American and North Korean flags and shook hands for the very first time. Staying on the point of Kim Jong Un, North Korea has one of the world's worst human rights records. How has this event changed Kim Jong Un's public image? You're in Singapore. He received a very warm reception yesterday from the public when he did that tour of the city.
Well, you know, Abby, it wasn't just this event. This is, of course, it culminated, everything culminated in this event. But it started at the beginning of the year with the New Year's address by Kim Jong Un, and then, of course, the participation of North Korean athletes in the Winter Olympics in South Korea, where he sent his sister, which was really well received there. And so he's been trying to revamp his image internationally for quite some time, and you can see that that image is already changing. If you mentioned the human rights record, there's presumably 120,000 people in Korean hard labor camps. This is a brutal dictator. This is a man who supposedly killed his uncle with anti-aircraft guns, who poisoned his half-brother at the airport in Kuala Lumpur, just an hour's flight from here, with a nerve agent. So, and now you're seeing him here, yes, last night, as you mentioned, with that little tour around Marina Bay here in downtown Singapore, and people taking pictures of him, and people were waving to him or to his motorcade in the last few days. So this is really remarkable, the image shift that has happened and that Kim Jong Un has been able to achieve.
Once again, you're seeing live video images of a room at the Capella Hotel in Singapore. We are waiting for the U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un to emerge through those double doors, take a seat side by side, and sign a declaration. We will try to get you the information of what's in that declaration as soon as we know. There are observers who are probably wondering this hour what concrete steps could potentially be included in such a declaration, or if it's just something that they're signing to say this is a starting point. There will be more meetings, there will be more summits, there will be more talking, Janka.
Well, I hope that that's in the declaration. I hope that not too concrete steps are in there, because then all of the hopes can be broken very easily, or the expectations can be disappointed very easily. So hopefully this is a pretty wobbly declaration where a lot of people can then put in a lot of work to make it actually work. We'll see there are immediate things that could be done. For example, the peace agreement that has been talked about a lot, so to turn the armistice agreement from 1953 into a formal peace deal. This would need some engagement from the Chinese, because they've also been part of the armistice agreement. So I think there are steps here, initial steps that could be taken and could be signed. I don't think it will be the beginning of diplomatic relations between North Korea and the United States, but who knows?
They're joining me in studios, Janka Oertel. Janka, Bastian was just talking about potential security assurances that the North Koreans would want from Washington in order to even consider denuclearization, because as of right now, we're not sure that they're willing to do what the Americans want exactly. What is the situation in terms of trust? There have been observers who've been watching Donald Trump throughout his presidency now, noticing that perhaps he'll say one thing one day and say something else and the next. And Kim Jong Un has certainly been watching this. Trump pulled out of an Iran deal just this past weekend. He was at the G7 summit in Canada. Everything seemed to go pretty well. He got on a plane and then he tweeted that he was not going to be part of that joint communique with allies. So why would Kim Jong Un trust Donald Trump?
I think Kim Jong Un is relatively smart. he knows exactly what's going on. So he doesn't trust Donald Trump, but he knows that he is the one key to his potential success. So what you could see over the last couple of weeks was that when the summit was in the making, in the run-up to it, that Kim Jong Un was very sensitive towards U.S. maneuvers in the region. So the military maneuvers that have taken place as scheduled, as they take place every year with the South Koreans, were one of those issues that really put Kim Jong Un to the test and said, well, I don't want that to happen. This is, if we should trust each other, this shouldn't happen. So this is one of the areas where Donald Trump, in collaboration with the South Korean government, can show some initial trust-building exercises and say, well, we'll just stop all military maneuvers for the next 6 months and then see what happens. Or we'll stop them indefinitely as long as we see process. These are all steps that can be taken from that perspective. But Kim Jong Un will want to see these actual physical things. He doesn't believe in declarations as well because he knows that everything can be turned over immediately. And he has a short window of opportunity here because the United States is a democratic country. Donald Trump has midterms coming up in November. Depending on how much under pressure he might get, this might also shape his approach to North Korea. So he would want to lock in as many things as possible at this point in time, and they are not built on trust, but they're built on his own interests.
Janka, you mentioned that the midterms are coming up. How is all of this playing to Americans, but specifically Trump's base? Is this something that they see as a positive? That, look, he's meeting with Kim Jong Un. No sitting American president has ever done this. He's actually reaching out. There's dialogue happening now. Surely this must be better than belligerent threats and insults on Twitter.
Well, they also like the Rocket Man. So, yes. I mean, that's something that also appealed to his base. So I think this is exactly the two sides that his base likes. And Trump is playing to his base in this regard. So they like the tough leader that can stand up in the UN General Assembly and throw insults at the North Korean regime. But also,
I'm going to have to interrupt you there because the double doors have just opened. You're seeing U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un standing side by side. Trump there showing Kim Jong Un the opportunity to take a seat. Both men have now been seated, and the pens are out. They are going to sign a document. Let's have a listen.
Pretty comprehensive document, and we've had a really great term together, a great relationship. I'll be giving a news conference at 2:30, which is in a little bit less than 2 hours. And we'll discuss this at great length. In the meantime, I believe that they'll be handing it out on behalf of Chairman Kim and myself. And we're both very honored to sign the document. Thank you.
우리가 매우 중요한 문서에 서명을 하게 될 것입니다. 이 문서는 굉장히 포괄적인 문서이고 오늘 굉장히 좋은 아주 훌륭한 회담을 가졌고 또 아주 좋은 관계를 구축하였습니다. 2시 반, 즉 다시 말해서 약 2시간 후에 나는 기자회견을 할 예정입니다. 거기서 좀 더 자세하게 말씀을 드리겠습니다만은 일단 그 와중에 그동안에는 발표문이 기자들에게 배포될 것으로 알고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Would you like to say something to the press?
우리는 오늘 역사적인 이
Here
만남에서
today, we had a historic meeting, and leaving the past wrongdoings behind, we are going to sign the agreement here.
We had a historic meeting and decided to leave the past behind, and we are about to sign a historic document.
세상은 아마 중대한 변화를 보게 될
The
것입니다.
world will see the important change.
Major change.
오늘과 같은 이런 자리를 위해서 노력해 주신
First of all, for the successful meeting and summits, I want to give my sincere thanks to President Trump.
To make this meeting happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're starting that process very quickly. Very, very quickly. Absolutely.
Mr. President, 100% nuclear addition. Would you talk about auto warm beer, sir?
Mr. Kim, you're free to give up your nuclear arms.
You'll be seeing everything in just a little while. The letter that we're signing is very comprehensive, and I think both sides are going to be very impressed with the result. A lot of goodwill went into this, a lot of work, a lot of preparation. I want to thank everybody on both sides, Secretary Pompeo and all of his counterparts. They were absolutely fantastic.
네, 조금 후에 우리가 서명한 발표문의 내용에 대해서 곧 알게 될 것입니다. 아까도 얘기했습니다마는 매우 포괄적인 그러한 문서이고 양측이 그 결과에 대해서 굉장히 만족할 만한 결과입니다. 이 문서를 서명하고 또 이런 그 만남을 갖기 위해서 많은 사람들이 선의를 가지고 노력했고 또 많은 준비 작업이 있었습니다. 그 양측의 그러한 작업을 해주신 분들에 대해서 감사드립니다. 거기에는 폼페오 장관뿐만 아니라 조선 측의 그러한 여러 참여자분들에게 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you a little bit later. And we're very proud of what took place today. I think our whole relationship with North Korea and the Korean Peninsula is it's going to be a very much different situation than it has in the past. We both want to do something. We both are going to do something. And we have developed a very special bond. So people are going to be very impressed. People are going to be very happy. And we're going to take care of a very big and very dangerous problem for the world. And I want to thank Chairman Kim. Spent a lot of time together today, very intensive time. And I would actually say that it worked out for both of us far better than anybody could have expected. I think far better. I watched the various news reports. I would say far better than anybody even predicted. And this is going to lead to more and more and more. And it's an honor to be with you. Very great honor. Thank you. Thank you to all of your representatives very much.
우리 둘 다 오늘 둘 다 뭔가 이루어내려고 싶어하고 또 둘의 특별한 관계가 오늘 시작되었습니다. 그리고 우리는 아주 여러 가지 중요한 여러 가지 문제의 해결에 시작을 했다라고 말씀드릴 수가 있습니다. 김 위원장님께 감사드리고 또 내가 보기에는 오늘 만남이 누가 기대했던 것보다 또 누가 예측했던 것보다도 좋은 만남이고 좋은 결과로 이루어질 것 같습니다. 또 앞으로 더 많은 진척이 있을 것 같고 이렇게 만나게 된 것을 영광으로 생각합니다. 김 위원장님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Invite Chairman Kim to the White House.
Absolutely, I will.
Mr. Kim, would you like to come to Washington?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
We're watching DW News and now seeing live images of Donald Trump and Kim Jong Un leaving this signing. They have just signed a declaration. Trump, ever the reality star that he used to be, teased it and did not give concrete answers as to what was actually in that document, but that the document would be passed around to the press shortly. And that will include our very own Bastian Hartig, who's in Singapore, and we should have some answers on what was actually included in that. The two leaders thanked each other for this summit and the conversations that they've had. Trump called it an intense conversation, but he also said that it was more successful than anyone, including the press, could have expected. In terms of denuclearization, we know that the definition of denuclearization means two different things. I'll come to you now, Janka. To the United States, as I mentioned, it's CVID, complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. And to the North Koreans, perhaps it means something else.
Well, to the North Koreans, it means a step-by-step process. It means that they are willing to give something for other steps. And they are feeling encircled by the U.S. military power in the region, not only in South Korea. And they would like the U.S. to back off, because that would be their part of denuclearization. They are within the missile range of U.S. nuclear weapons at all times. So I think this is the other part of the definition from the North Korean side.
Yeah, and the North Koreans, in terms of security assurances or guarantees, they're obviously going to want something in return for denuclearization. The Kim regime, Kim Jong Un, his father, his grandfather, have always looked at this from the perspective of self-defense, not only within the region, but in terms of the United States. what kind of assurances would they want? There has been talk yesterday also with Pompeo in terms of U.S. troop removal. Pompeo wouldn't really speak to that, and that seems like a rather drastic measure. But after today, could that even be possible?
Well, a couple of months ago, when this was all in the making, someone said to me, well, this U.S. president could actually be one president that would be actually interested in bringing those troops back home and would sell that as a victory. What would that mean for the overall security posture of the U.S. in the region? I think that's a different story. So just making that argument and saying we will reduce the troop numbers by half, for example, would be something that the U.S. could do. But it will show a sign of weakness as well, and at a time where I think we shouldn't forget the overall strategic environment in which the U.S. is playing there. It is in a war-like situation with China in many ways, or in a preparation for war, not a war-like situation, but in preparations for war at each point. So this is the big strategic adversary. This is China. And so we have to just be very careful about how this would shift China's strategic options in the region. How much of a withdrawal could the U.S. afford to not ruin its strategic posture in the region as a significant peace guarantor also in the Asia-Pacific?
As you mentioned, Trump could potentially, if they were to ever even consider this, pulling out U.S. troops, he could certainly sell that to his base at home as a positive. I'm bringing our boys and girls home, and they shouldn't be there in the first place, and this is not our business.
And it's costly.
And it's costly, exactly. And this should be something that those countries should deal with, that South Korea should deal with. South Koreans, specifically President Moon Jae-in, is obviously watching this. He said he had a sleepless night last night waiting for the summit to take place. If something like that were to occur, again, we're speculating because there hasn't been any confirmation that there will be U.S. troop withdrawal, how would Seoul react to something like this?
I think there are two hearts beating in Seoul's chest, and we will definitely have to see what the results are. I don't think they will comment on this very quickly. The security guarantees that the U.S. has provided has secured the economic success of South Korea over the past decades, so they're not easily going to be willing to give up that potential. But they're also interested in closer economic relations with their other big partner, with China. So I think maybe in the end, some sort of a middle ground could be a way through this.
This is DW News live from Berlin. U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un agreed to remove nuclear weapons from the Korean peninsula. A deal they signed at their summit commits calls for the complete denuclearization of the peninsula. It's been a historic day in Singapore. I'm Abby Kuhathasan. Welcome to the program. U.S. President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un have committed to the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula at a historic summit between the two in Singapore. The two leaders signed a comprehensive joint document to that effect at their meeting just a short while ago. The exact details of that joint text have not yet been confirmed, but President Trump claims a denuclearization process in North Korea is due to begin shortly. He also said he developed, quote, a very special bond with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. For his part, Kim Jong Un claimed the world will see a major change after today's summit and that he and Trump agreed to leave the past behind. We expect to learn more about the contents of their joint document shortly, with President Trump to address the press very soon. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump hailed the signing of the declaration, saying it would transform relations between the United States and North Korea.
Out of what took place today, I think our whole relationship with North Korea and the Korean Peninsula is it's going to be a very much different situation than it has in the past. We both want to do something. We both are going to do something. And we have developed a very special bond. So people are going to be very impressed. People are going to be very happy. And we're going to take care of a very big and very dangerous problem for the world. And I want to thank Chairman Kim.
DW correspondent Alexandra von Nahmen is following this entire event for us from Singapore. Alexandra, Trump and Kim have signed a document. Do you have any indication of what's included in that and what they've agreed to?
Well, the Trump-Kim document reportedly commits U.S. to security guarantees and its establishment of a new U.S.-North Korean relations. But that is, of course, not confirmed so far. And another thing that is, of course, very significant is that Kim Jong Un reportedly commits in this document to complete denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. And that's something that I ask a senior White House official to confirm, but he didn't want to talk about it. He just said that it's the president, the U.S. president, who is going to talk about the content of this document during his press conference. Maybe you can hear it in the background, a sound check for this press conference. We are right now in the Capella Hotel where Trump and Kim were meeting, and we are here to wait for this press conference.
And Alexandra, of course, will come to that press conference as soon as it begins, because we are very interested, as is the world, in hearing what Donald Trump has to say about this document. You mentioned the official that gave you very little information. Trump also gave very little information after he signed that document with Kim Jong Un. Should we read anything into how tight-lipped he was at the signing?
Well, I would say that what is interesting for me, or what I found very interesting in the whole ceremony, that it really looked like, both leaders are getting along pretty well with each other. We saw this patting on their backs, smiling on all that. However, I also have to say that listening to Donald Trump, who said that this is a comprehensive document, made me a bit skeptical that we are really going to see a lot of details in this document. Normally, I would find emails from the White House in my email folder explaining what's going on, sending this document, but there is nothing so far, and that is something that would point to the fact that it is, nothing that was staged and planned ahead of this meeting, maybe.
Alexandra, you've been following Trump since his inauguration. You're obviously our bureau chief in Washington and have been in contact with the White House. How important is reaching some kind of deal, any kind of deal, important to Trump? What does it mean to him?
Well, it's very important for the U.S. president because it was a risky strategy, a gamble to agree to have this meeting in the first place. And Trump was facing a lot of criticism in the U.S. for that. Many experts I talked to, and of course Trump's political opponents, told me that it was premature, that such a summit has to be prepared not only months but maybe years, that nothing good can come out of this summit. So it was sort of a lot of pressure to make this summit a success. And we also have to say that the U.S. president is under a lot of pressure at home. There is an upcoming midterm elections that will be very important and will show whether the Republicans can remain in control of the House and the Senate. There is this ongoing Russia investigation looking into an alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and looking into potential obstruction of justice. So for this president, it is very important to have sort of foreign policy success.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has been holding a news conference following his summit with the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. Trump has called it a first bold step to a bright new future. The U.S. president praised Kim Jong Un after the two committed to denuclearizing the peninsula.